Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. My name is Terry Rogaway, and I am the Educational Programs Administrator here. We're here today to learn about the Coyote Valley Master Plan and this amazing new report that they have called Understanding Coyote Valley. So we're joined here today by Jennifer Peth, the Coyote Valley Conservation Area Master Plan Assistant Program Manager, and by Nick Perry, the Coyote Valley Conservation Area Master Plan Project Director. So please feel free to use your Q&A option. If you have any questions as we're going along, go ahead and type them in. And what we will do is at the end of the presentation, we will cycle through the questions and answer them for you. So without any further delay, I give you Jennifer Peth with her presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Terry. And hi, everybody. Again, I'm Jennifer Peth. Great to have you all here today. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you learned something new through this presentation. We're pleased to share with you all that the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan, or CVCAMP, as I'll call it by its acronym today, we've reached an important milestone in completing the Understanding Coyote Valley Existing Conditions Summary Report, as Terry mentioned. So today I'll provide a brief background about Coyote Valley and how we've arrived at where we are today. Some of the background information I'll cover may be familiar to some of you. We'll be sharing briefly the story of conservation in Coyote Valley and provide some framing about the master plan process. And of course, we are excited to be sharing new takeaways based on what we've learned from the Understanding Coyote Valley report. As Terry mentioned, please feel free to add your questions to the Q&A, and Nick and I will plan to cover them at the end of the presentation. So for some of those of you who may be somewhat less familiar with the Open Space Authority, our mission is to conserve the natural environment, support agriculture, and connect people to nature by protecting open spaces, natural areas, and working farms and ranches for future generations. So CVCAMP is not only important to advancing the authority's mission, but as we will discuss, this project touches down in all areas of our mission, from natural and working lands to public access and more. So this aerial image on the screen is looking west over Coyote Valley, showing its remarkable setting located at the narrowest point between the Santa Cruz Mountains to the west and the Diablo Range to the east in the foreground, and in between the urbanized areas of San Jose to the north and Morgan Hill to the south. This largely undeveloped valley floor connects over 1.1 million acres of core habitat in those surrounding mountain ranges. And because of this unique setting, Coyote Valley offers an irreplaceable and unique opportunity to link landscapes and connect habitats for plants and wildlife, protecting biodiversity and allowing for adaptation to climate change. The valley floor itself is home to rare habitat and natural features like the historic Laguna Seca, one of the largest freshwater marshes in the South Bay, in the north on the right side of your screen, and Coyote Creek in the foreground, and the Fisher Creek floodplain behind that to the west, which captures stormwater and contributes to groundwater recharge. Its prime farmlands carry on Santa Clara Valley's rich agricultural heritage as the Valley of Heart's Delight. Its beautiful open spaces offer amazing opportunities for people to connect with nature right within the borders of our nation's 10th or 11th largest city. And today, Coyote Valley is increasingly recognized for the many benefits its natural infrastructure provides, both people and wildlife. But as we'll hear, this wasn't always the case. So going way back in time, the map on the screen here is showing the historic ecology of Coyote Valley, or what the landscape would have looked like prior to colonization and subsequent parcelization and development. Today's roadways are overlaid for geographic reference, but what you see here is a landscape dominated by oak savanna and oak woodlands, You see the freshwater marsh of Laguna Seca stretching north from Tulare Hill, south past Spreckles Hill, what's today Bailey Avenue, those wet meadows, and of course that riparian area of Coyote Creek. Amazingly, the reclamation, as it were, of Coyote Valley's wet meadows and freshwater marshes for agricultural purposes were closely documented. So CV Camp offers the potential to restore a vast mosaic of rare habitats, including the wetlands of the historic Laguna Seca, which are seen here in 1916. And here you see reclamation underway. But this was accomplished through a number of methods, various techniques, including trenching and burning, with the goal of draining the wetland areas, removing natural vegetation and water, especially water from the valley, as quickly and efficiently as possible. So throughout this work, Fisher Creek, which flows again along the western edge of the valley before joining with Coyote Creek today near Metcalf Road, this was channelized to serve as a major drainage ditch to capture and remove water coming from the western hillsides onto the valley. And here you start to see the results of this work with the valley turned into agricultural fields. Here in the photo is onions and sugar beets planted in Laguna Seca in 1919. And by the 1940s, the orchards of the Valley of Heart's Delight stretched through Coyote Valley, as seen in the aerial photograph from that time. Today, Coyote Valley is a landscape that's been heavily altered, but which still holds immense ecological value and potential, which we'll dive more into. So one of the most important benefits Coyote Valley provides is being home, the home of many animals, like some of those pictured here. Even in its current and unrestored state, the valley is a precious refuge for wildlife, including rare, threatened, and endangered species that have been pushed out of other parts of the Bay Area due to development. Another benefit Coyote Valley provides is the important role it plays in naturally collecting and storing rainwater. In Coyote Valley, flooding can be a good thing. Because the lands are undeveloped, water can pool on the surface and sink underground. And then for wildlife, keeping water in Coyote Valley creates important habitat like wetlands. And for people, keeping water in Coyote Valley helps replenish our groundwater supplies, where much of Santa Clara Valley's drinking water comes from. It also helps prevent flooding in San Jose. So if Coyote Valley were developed, there is a greater risk of stormwater quickly flowing from buildings and parking lots and into Coyote Creek, increasing the risk of flooding in San Jose to the south. So throughout the 2010s, as the realities of our climate crisis became more apparent, the local environmental community really coalesced around Coyote Valley, seeing the valley as an increasingly invaluable piece of the Bay Area's natural infrastructure and ability to adapt to climate change. 2017, in particular, was an important year for Coyote Valley's conservation. The Protect Coyote Valley campaign was created by the Committee for Green Foothills, pulling together the efforts of numerous environmental organizations toward the permanent protection of Coyote Valley. The Open Space Authority that same year released the Coyote Valley Landscape Linkage Report. This is a science-based report that laid the foundation for the protection and restoration of the valley. And that same year, the Peninsula Open Space Trust, or POST, purchased 2 valley floor properties, setting the wheels in motion for further protection of this landscape. And those properties are shown in the map here in green, highlighted in the bright yellow. So you have Fisher's Bend in Mid-Coyote Valley and Fisher Flats in North Coyote Valley. Since 2017, the Open Space Authority, POST, and the City of San Jose all have purchased and permanently protected together over 1,550 acres of valley floor lands in Coyote Valley. These are the areas, again, shaded in green and highlighted in yellow, they go from adjacent to Coyote Valley Open Space Authority, pardon me, Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, north of Palm Avenue, to north to Tulare Hill. So these lands were prioritized for all the reasons we mentioned earlier, like habitat for wildlife that connects the surrounding mountain ranges, allowing stormwater to collect in Coyote Valley instead of flooding areas downstream, protecting rich soil for agriculture, and giving people a place to enjoy the benefits of being out in nature. So this leads us to the master plan. The task underway is planning for how to restore and take care of this land for the future. So this guiding document that is ultimately developed will be the Coyote Valley Conservation Area's master plan. It's a document that will guide decisions about how Coyote Valley is restored, used, and managed in the long term. The plan will identify early projects to be constructed within the next 5 to 10 years, as well as map out a big picture vision for a 20 to 30-year time horizon. And the development of the master plan is being led by the Open Space Authority in close partnership with, again, Post and the City of San Jose, which own portions of these conserved lands. And to help us create the plan, we're working with experts in everything from hydrology to habitat restoration, transportation planning, agricultural economics to cultural and historic resources, and more. We are also closely coordinating with many other agencies and groups, such as Santa Clara County Parks, Valley Water, local tribes, and community members like you all here today. So as we plan Coyote Valley's future, we will be looking to hear from the public on a variety of decisions we'll be making so that the vision of Coyote Valley is created by a community as diverse as the people who live in Santa Clara County. Seen here on the screen is the vision statement for the Coyote Valley Protected Lands. It's the guiding statement for our work. I'll read it. Coyote Valley is a thriving landscape that connects vital habitat for wildlife, protects natural floodplains, promotes sustainable agriculture, and offers unique opportunities for people to experience and enjoy nature. With the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan, the Open Space Authority and partners will make Coyote Valley a model for nature-based solutions that create a more climate-resilient future for all. So in addition to this vision, we have 10 goals for the CV Camp project, which I'll share now. We want to create a master plan for the conserved lands of Coyote Valley that will enhance wildlife habitat and ecological connectivity, sustainably manage and restore water resources, improve public health via access to nature, foster ongoing and inclusive community engagement, respect, honor, preserve, and interpret cultural heritage and historic resources, including by working closely with local Indigenous communities, adapt to changing climate conditions, making us resilient to the effects of climate change, supporting local agriculture, and leveraging the landscape to boost the local economy through programs and nature-based activities that promote green jobs and workforce development, promote visitors to come enjoy Coyote Valley, and encourage opportunities for direct consumer marketing of local agricultural goods. Through CV Camp, we also want to promote equitable and sustainable transportation modes. And finally, we want to look beyond the boundaries of the currently conserved lands in Coyote Valley to consider how they fit into a broader, holistic vision for the future of the region. So the timeline here outlines where we've been and where we're going in the CV Camp process, and I'll just briefly review. In 2022, we began compiling and reviewing existing data, identifying where there were data gaps and where we needed more information. Through 2023, we began studies and site assessments to fill those data gaps and learn more about how Coyote Valley functions today. In 2024, we've been finalizing those site assessments, putting them together in the Understanding Coyote Valley Existing Conditions Summary Report. And we're now in the phase of sharing out the findings of that report, which is what brings us here today. From here, we'll begin to look at opportunities and constraints, beginning to identify proposed actions that, if implemented, would result in a benefit to Coyote Valley's master planning effort, or barriers or obstacles to achieving the goals of CV Camp. And then in 2025, we'll get into the heart of the planning process. So developing those restoration and use concept alternatives and seeking public feedback on those alternatives. And by 2026, a preferred alternative will move forward to serve as the groundwork from which to build out the master plan. As I just mentioned, we're happy to be able to announce the recent release of the Understanding Coyote Valley report. So let's go ahead and dig into some of the report's key findings. Beginning with wildlife. Large-scale habitat restoration is needed. So Coyote Valley has been heavily altered by human use. Habitat restoration would increase biodiversity, promote healthy wildlife movement, and protect both common and rare native species, such as the California tiger salamander shown in the photo on the top. There is also a great potential to restore vital aquatic habitat. Restoration will benefit rare wildlife like the California tiger salamander. However, invasive species like bullfrogs and crayfish are present nearby and must be carefully controlled. Another example is the red-eared slider turtle. Sometimes those are acquired as pets and then released in the wild, so another thing to look out for. We also know that roadways are fragmenting habitat and killing wildlife. The map on the screen here shows roadkill observation data collected by partners from 2005 to 2022. So collecting this data over time helps to show where the most dangerous locations are for wildlife and drivers. Changes to roadway design, fencing, and infrastructure like wildlife undercrossings will allow wildlife to move more safely through Coyote Valley. And new uses must be planned with wildlife in mind. So Coyote Valley's role as a successful landscape linkage for wildlife depends on reducing the effects of human use and activity. So noise, lighting, traffic, and other factors must be carefully considered when new uses are planned. On water resources, North Coyote Valley, including Laguna Seca, offers the greatest potential for restored aquatic habitats due to shallow groundwater, which could support a diverse range of habitat types. And then so by developing hydrologic models, we've learned that some small or minimal interventions can have a big impact on water resources in Coyote Valley. So as an example, this image at the top of the slide is an output from the model showing the results of interventions in the drainage ditches around Laguna Seca, which would create wetter conditions for longer periods of the year in Laguna Seca. So we're excited to see what the possibilities are as we explore different restoration scenarios in the landscape with these tools. Similarly, we also know that Mid-Coyote Valley offers the greatest potential for restoration of habitat like oak savanna. That are less dependent on surface and groundwater and more resilient to drought conditions. And then reconnecting Fisher Creek, shown in the image on the bottom, to its historic floodplain creates many different benefits, including reducing downstream flood risk, enhancing habitat, and improving water quality. So modeling has also confirmed the benefits of water retention to local habitat and also slowing those floodwaters to Coyote Creek. On transportation. Existing roadways in Coyote Valley were designed for development that won't be taking place in Coyote Valley. So traffic analysis indicates that segments of Bailey Avenue and Santa Teresa Boulevard are overly wide. This encourages not only speeding, but also increases the risk of collisions and roadkill. So traffic engineers have confirmed that these roads are operating well below capacity. And then another finding is the opportunity for utilizing existing public transit facilities to provide sustainable access to public open space. So the VTA bus route 68 runs north-south through Coyote Valley. There's a photo of the bus stop at Bailey Avenue in Santa Teresa on the screen here. And it's really unique to have established bus routes within such close proximity to open space. More often, people have to rely on personal vehicles to access open space, which can create a barrier for many. So improving some of those bus stops with amenities like shade structures and pathways to future trailheads would make accessing open space, pardon me, via public transportation more comfortable and convenient. And then overall, pedestrian routes are lacking. So dedicated footpaths parallel to key roads could provide safer pedestrian routes between destinations and serve as part of Coyote Valley's larger regional trail network. On cultural heritage and resources, Coyote Valley is a culturally significant landscape for Native Americans. Coyote Valley is home to one of the oldest recorded archaeological sites in Santa Clara County and has a high density of pre-contact sites overall. So sensitive areas may be better understood, protected, and stewarded through ongoing study and engagement with local tribal partners. Coyote Valley also connects people to Santa Clara Valley's history. All major areas of the valley's history are evident in Coyote Valley, including natural history, tribal history, Spanish and Mexican eras, Valley of Heart's Delight agricultural era, and early Silicon Valley. This rich cultural landscape is full of opportunities to interpret the region's complex and fascinating history. And on agriculture, development speculation has led in some cases to an underinvestment in agricultural infrastructure and a prevalence of short-term crops like hayfields. Permanent protection of Coyote Valley's agricultural lands could allow farmers to more securely invest resources and increase the diversity of crops grown in the area. We screened a wide variety of uses with an agricultural economist, and demonstration farms, native plant nurseries, and adaptive grazing have initially been found to be the most compatible with the CV Camp properties and vision. And building awareness and appreciation for Coyote Valley grown goods can increase their value. There is a strong market for locally grown goods. Expanded agritourism, branding and marketing could strengthen the economic viability of farming in the region. And then lastly, regulatory and policy support is needed. This is to ensure access to the resources needed for farming, including affordable access to water and affordable housing for farmers and farm employees. So we'll continue to investigate where and how agricultural uses are most appropriate on the CV Camp properties. All right, the map on the screen here shows the CV Camp properties in yellow, surrounded by other parks and open space in shades of darker and lighter green. And the authority owns and manages the properties shaded in the darker green. And we know that Coyote Valley already offers many recreational activities in a scenic setting that benefit from the protection of the valley's open spaces. So hiking, golfing, model aircraft flying, fishing, and shooting sports are just some of the many varied outdoor recreational activities available. And public access to open space in the region is plentiful, but disconnected. So Coyote Valley is identified as a place for important regional trail connections by Santa Clara County Parks and the Bay Area Ridge Trail Council. And those existing and proposed regional trail networks are shown also on the map here by the purple lines. So with the solid line indicating those existing regional trails, and the dashed line conveying the proposed or conceptual trail routes where exact alignments have yet to be determined. And then so just to add here, these flat valley floor lands also provide an opportunity for more easily accessible nature experiences where people of varying physical abilities can connect with nature. So in the summer of 2023, we conducted surveys in Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve and Santa Teresa County Park. These are two open spaces in close proximity to the CV Camp properties. And the goal was to understand how people are currently using those places, who they are, what are their use patterns, and why do they enjoy visiting. We had traffic counters in the parking lots that confirmed mornings are the most popular time of day to visit, and weekend uses, of course, were exceeding weekday uses. And then also, not surprisingly, people indicated that spring was the most preferred time of year for visiting. Those hills are green and the wildflowers are out. We conducted intercept surveys of visitors. Most indicated that their primary reason for visiting was to get exercise. So this is an interesting finding in terms of the user profiles of the people visiting these places. And throughout the CV Camp process, we've been doing lots of community engagement, including through events and surveys. We want to hear from people what it is about Coyote Valley that's most important to them. So some of the things that we've heard. Many engagement participants were initially unaware of Coyote Valley, but once they learned about it, expressed positive reaction to its conservation and CV Camp. The most popular goal for CV Camp is to enhance wildlife habitat and ecological connectivity. And then when asked what kinds of features would people most like to see on the protected properties, the most popular selected by the CV Camp survey respondents are hiking trails, wildlife viewing areas, and places to stop and enjoy scenic views. So while it's hard to pick just one, we want to pause here and ask the audience today, which goal for Coyote Valley is most important to you? So a poll should pop up here on the screen. Answers starting here. Five seconds. I'll stop the clock. So it's looking like fairly consistent with what we've heard so far, the enhancing wildlife habitat and ecological connectivity, closely followed by boosting the local economy. Great. So thanks, everyone. Okay. Alrighty, so as we wrap up the presentation portion of the webinar, I just wanted to remind you all that the CV Camp team is hosting a third open house in about a week and a half. We've previously held open houses in Morgan Hill and San Jose. So this is taking place at the Santa Teresa Public Library on Tuesday, September 24th from 4 to 7 p.m. We'll have family-friendly programming and activities, thanks to Terry. And the team will also be on hand to share again, more information about the findings on existing conditions in Coyote Valley. There are also lots of other great events coming up. Check out our events calendar and sign up for our mailing list at openspaceauthority.org/cbcamp. Reminder, some of those events are really popular and fill up quickly when there is capacity. And thank you all, and we look forward to answering some of your questions today.
Thank you for that presentation, Jennifer. So the first question is actually for Nick. So this first question is, what is the plan for Coyote Valley Sporting Clays? It's the only facility of its kind in the South Bay, and the nearest alternative is in the North Bay, and it's about 80 miles away.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Terry. So Coyote Valley Sporting Clays is located on Tilton Ranch. It's about an 1,800 acre ranch in the western foothills out west of Coyote Valley. That property is actually owned by the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Agency, so one of our partner agencies. The Open Space Authority, our agency, owns the 60-acre Tilton Ranch complex, so the house, which was once the heart of the larger ranch, but we don't own the land that Coyote Valley Sporting Clays is located on. So the future use of sporting clays and how that works with the future planning for Tilton Ranch is going to be planned in collaboration with the Habitat Agency. That said, in our spring 23 survey that Jen kind of summarized some recaps from in her presentation, we heard a lot of folks from the Coyote Valley Sporting Clays community and how important that facility is to them. And we thank you all for submitting responses to the survey and sharing your thoughts, not just on sporting clays, but on Coyote Valley in general.
The next question is, what is the update on the proposed cemetery? Can Post purchase the parcel to protect the land?
Yeah, I can take that one. The city of San Jose recently released a notice of a public scoping meeting to prepare a supplemental environmental impact report. So that scoping meeting, I believe, is taking place on, you'll have to confirm, I believe it was Monday, September 23rd, but check the city of San Jose's website. And then in terms of, I think there was a second part of that question was about Post purchasing the property. I'm not familiar with any conversations happening with between Post and the landowners, but yeah, we will be looking at the environmental impact report and, of course, looking at those environmental impacts. Appreciate the question because it is right there close to Coyote Valley in the wildlife corridor.
Okay, the next question is, will the buses and public transportation have a special lane so it won't be stuck in traffic? That would make it very reliable to run on time and make it much more attractive.
Nick, do you have an initial response?
So we're actually working right now with the City of San Jose's Department of Transportation to scope street design planning for Santa Teresa. So questions like that we'll be answering through the street design process with the city. But thanks for the thought and the question.
Yeah. Exciting to think about what's possible with that bus route.
During the survey, we did have somebody say it was a shame to not be able to choose more than one.
Oh, yeah, it's hard.
And we do have a message here that says, thank you for the presentation. Our family and many of our friends visit Coyote Valley often, specifically to engage in shooting sports at Coyote Valley Sporting Clays. How will this, okay, so that's been addressed. And that looks like that's about it.
Let's see, I'm seeing.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Yeah, but wait, there's more.
Somebody wants to know how many people were on this webinar today? At the peak, I saw 93.
Yeah, right now there's 85 participants.
Oh, and somebody wants to know if we can talk about the history and future of the Laguna Seca Dam.
Sure. Jen, do you want to take that or you want me to answer?
I can begin by again saying we're looking at the hydrologic models that I mentioned are looking at an array of scenarios. Um, but yeah, Nick, go ahead if there's anything you have, Jaw.
Well, for those who don't know, Laguna Seca, which is the large wetland on the northern side of Coyote Valley that Jen showed those historic photos of it being drained and burnt and reclaimed. Much later than that whole process, in the early 2000s, a dam was built right through the middle of Laguna Seca. And the purpose of that dam was associated with when that area was slated to be developed with office campuses. And the dam was meant to turn the northern part of Laguna Seca into basically a stormwater detention basin. So all the runoff from the development could be basically they would dig it out and turn it into a large artificial pond. That never happened. The development never happened. The land is now protected. The dam is kind of a relic of those past schemes. And so one of the major questions the CV camp has to answer is what the heck to do with that dam? Because it is an official dam. It's monitored every year by the Department of Safety of Dams. We're required to maintain it, and we would like to potentially retire it so we can restore that property to a more natural condition.
Thank you. Is the public access currently available for free or is there a charge?
We provide public access for free on all of our preserves. Within Coyote Valley, there is Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve and Mayan-Oyakma Coyote Ridge Open Space Preserve, which was just opened last August, actually. So 2 preserves right there in Coyote Valley that are free and open to the public.
We have a question here. You mentioned VTA Route 68 access to Coyote Valley. Are there any events being planned to utilize the VTA form of transportation? I would like to answer that one if it's possible. I'm excited to say that on the 21st at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we will be hosting a VTA special day where you can come out to Spreckles Hill on the corner of Santa Teresa and Bailey, and we will be sketching and doing plein air painting. So if you bring a chair, we will take care of the rest and provide everything for you. So if you would like to get into that event, please go ahead and email me at trogaway, TROGOWAY, at openspaceauthority.org, and I will see what I can do. How does the CV Camp and San Jose Open Space Authority coordinate decision-making with other protected land agencies? And what is the approach if conflicts exist between these agencies?
Nick, did you want to take the first one?
Oh, that's a great question. It varies from agency to agency. In some cases, we have agreements, our legally binding conservation easements that dictate how decision-making takes place. And sometimes it really rests on who is actually the owner of the property. They might have final say on what takes place. But it really depends from one property to the next, what types of agreements we have in place to make decision making or when there's disagreements. We try to avoid disagreements and work really collaboratively with all our partners. City of San Jose, for instance, is a core partner to Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan. They own one of the properties that's being planned through CV Camp, which is called Tulare Meadows, just north of Bailey between Santa Teresa and Monterey. So in that instance, for example, we have a conservation easement in place that kind of governs what happens with that land. And San Jose has approval over the final plan for that property through CV Camp, and we're working with them every step of the way to figure out the future use of that plan. But again, it varies from parcel to parcel.
What about infrastructure that improves access for more people, including especially disabled access? Can ADA compliant permanent bathrooms be included?
Sure. So appreciate that question. As I mentioned, we're excited about the potential that the CV Camp properties offer for that accessible public access, in particular because of those flat valley floor lands. So we have built accessible trails at Mayan-Oyakma Coyote Ridge. There are permanent accessible bathrooms there as well. And then we're in the process of planning and designing for the construction of accessible trail improvements at Coyote Valley Valley Open Space Preserve as well. So look forward to constructing that in the next few years here and adding to the accessible opportunities to experience nature in Coyote Valley.
Outside of agriculture and rare animal species, has any rare wild tree been identified, cataloged, and protected? Ooh.
Terry or Nick, are there any that come to mind for you all?
I'm going to have to ask our natural resources guy. That's a neat question. Thank you.
At least along Coyote Creek, the sycamore alluvial floodplains are so rare to find these days, and those you do see along Coyote Creek. But that's one that comes to mind.
The only other thing I can think of is that in Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, we did have a volunteer who really loved plants, and he did do a survey for us, and he discovered at least 3 plants that are medicinal in use that are not native to here. So it's possible that in earlier times, the people traded for those medicinal plants in order to have them on site. But I can check as to the rarity of those and if they're still in place.
And then I'm remembering actually a story Terry, you mentioned to me at Myoniakma Coyote Ridge along the Bay Checker Spot Trail. You can find a leather oak.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's a kind of a special one.
Did you know there were leather oak trees? That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still seeing lots of questions about Coyote Valley sporting clay. So I'm going to go ahead and type a version of what I said earlier so everyone who is interested on the future of that can hear the answer that we shared. But I also see lots of other fun questions in there too. So Terry, I'll let you do that while I type an answer for the sporting clays question.
Somebody was asking, is it the goal for Post to eventually own all of Coyote Valley?
I think that Post works with landowners on a case-by-case basis. Of course, there's the vision for protected open space. We're a large part of the way there. And the pace and scale of conservation in Coyote Valley has been really amazing to see over the past few years. But no, I think that there are a number of uses and activities that are occurring in Coyote Valley that should stay and remain. Again, all those the farm fields, and there's houses and neighborhoods. So I would, not to speak for Post, but venture to guess that not all of Coyote Valley is in their sites.
Well, I'll just, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
not. We do not want to, and we cannot permanently protect all of Coyote Valley by buying it. Coyote Valley is always going to be a mosaic of public and private lands. And really the focus of conservation has been on the wildlife connection and the key parcels that are needed to ensure that we're able to create that landscape linkage for wildlife between the Santa Cruz Mountains and Diablo Range. So that's really where Post's efforts, Post Peninsula Open Space Trust's efforts are focused in Coyote Valley.
Is there any possibility that the VTA light rail will be extended through Coyote Valley?
No,
Not that I'm aware of. I think that was maybe an idea that was floated back when Coyote Valley was going to be fully developed, and there were some ideas that we could extend the light rail down there. But given the lack of population, I imagine that there would be much higher priorities for VTA in terms of future light rail expansion.
I saw a farm for sale near Spreckles Hill. Is Post or OSA interested in buying it?
It would depend which farm. And yeah, Post works with willing sellers, so they may be looking into it, but the details on that I'm not privy to. We are interested in preserving key agricultural properties in the valley floor, but again, the goal isn't to buy every property and protect every property. It's always going to be a mosaic of public and private lands.
That's good, because somebody wanted to know, how will the high-speed rail impact wildlife?
That is an excellent question. I'll just jump in, Jen, but feel free to chime in. But we have an MOU with High Speed Rail. We've been working with them for a few years now to identify particularly what impacts it would have on wildlife connectivity. So as a part of high-speed rail's planning, if and when it's built, they are looking at key locations where they'd be building culverts underneath the rail and other infrastructure to allow wildlife to go from the protected lands on either side and not have high-speed rail serve as a barrier for wildlife movement. And wildlife connectivity in general is a major topic that we're looking at. And Post Peninsula Open Space Trust is looking closely at the Monterey Corridor and US 101 and what types of improvements are going to be needed beyond what's already being planned through high-speed rail to ensure that wildlife can safely move across all that transportation infrastructure that's oftentimes where they end up getting hit and killed.
To whom should we address our ideas and priorities for the conservation and future of Coyote Valley?
For the future of Coyote Valley's conserved lands, so the properties that the OSA owns and manages, we would love to hear your ideas, and you can email us. I think, Jen, you flashed the screen shot again, maybe of how to contact us if you want to share your screen again.
You can go to openspaceauthority.org/cvcamp, and that will, there should be an email address there. Let me go here.
And thank you all for all the great questions. You're keeping us on our toes and helping. We weren't sure if we'd fill the whole hour with questions, and I love getting all these questions from you all.
What wildlife crossings are currently approved and being considered?
Well, there are none that are currently, I would say, well, there are some that are a part of high-speed rail that have been cleared through that project's environmental review documentation. Beyond that, we're in kind of the conceptual design phase for additional wildlife crossings on Monterey and 101. And that effort, as I was saying earlier, is being led through Post. Through CV Camp, through the Coyote Valley Conservationers Master Plan, we'll be looking at what's needed along Santa Teresa and Bailey, since those roads bisect the properties that are the focus of the master plan.
Are horses allowed?
Horses are currently allowed at Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, as well as Myoneokma Coyote Ridge. We have dedicated equestrian trailer parking lot at Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, and then contact us if you need. You can, is it Terry, info@openspaceauthority.org for equestrian parking information at Myoneokma.
Is open space going to be developing housing for farm workers?
Housing for farm workers is not something that is a major focus on the lands that we're planning through CV Camp. There's a lot of restrictions on where we can build based on conservation easements that we have for a lot of the properties. That said, we are acutely aware of the need for affordable housing for farm workers, and we're doing what we can to support that throughout the region.
Are there more lands that are potentially going to be acquired for connectivity or other reasons?
I would say potentially. I mean, we work with willing sellers, and there's some pieces of the puzzle that would be great to have to build that connectivity. So it's an evolving landscape.
Are there artifacts of indigenous life in Coyote Valley that could be used for educational purposes or schools?
That would be something if we did inadvertently discover artifacts, we would do our best to avoid areas that we think might be sensitive for have archaeological sensitivity. But any use of those artifacts would be coordinated in closely with our tribal partners.
Is camping available at any open space?
Not currently. Not currently. It's possibly something that an amenity that we may be looking at as part of the Blair Ranch Trail Backcountry Trail Planning Project at the Open Space Authority's Rancho Cañada del Oro Open Space Preserve, and it is currently an allowed use as a part of the Yakima Coyote Ridge Open Space Preserve conservation easement that's held by the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Agency, but has yet to be developed.
Will fishing and hunting be allowed on any of the open space areas during their respective open seasons? The bay trails are shared and during waterfowl season, some trails are closed or posted to warn hikers. So will there be hunting?
That's not currently in the plans for the CV camp lands. And again, a lot of that is dictated by the conservation easements we have, which those were required. So that's not currently on the table for the valley floor lands that we're planning through CV camp.
What's the best way to monitor the progress of the master plan? Is there a newsletter?
Yes, please sign up for information in the newsletter at openspaceauthority.org/CVCamp. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there's an option there to sign up for our newsletter.
Will the presentation be made available online for those who could not attend today? And the answer is yes. We have a YouTube channel and we usually put this on there.
Thanks, Terry.
Are you looking at the impact of rodenticide use on predators?
I would offer that that is something that we have looked at through our integrated pest management program. So our integrated pest management program is available online and something that is considered there. And I would say the authority does not use rodenticides, but understand that it is does have an impact, unfortunately.
Oh, and then we had a request to put the contact screen back up, so they have a chance to write it down.
Yes.
And then Nick, there are several remaining similar questions about the sporting clays. So I believe you were answering some of those
Yeah, I hope folks can see the written response I put. I don't know what you're seeing on your end, but I typed an answer regarding sporting clays with an URL to the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Agency website.
Oh, somebody wanted to know, is IBM's property permanently protected?
No, IBM property is privately owned. It's not permanently protected. There is a Santa Clara County Parks as a floating trail easement through the IBM property, so they have basically the right to one day build a trail through there. But where that trail goes and when that happens has not been determined. I will say that zoning regulations that govern, what could happen in the hillside surrounding IBM effectively protect a lot of it from a lot of development, but in terms of like permanent protection as public open space, it's privately owned.
And it looks like that's the end of our questions. So we would like to thank everybody very much for coming today. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Nick, for your presentation and your answers. You can look forward to seeing this on our YouTube page, and that should be up in the next couple days.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today. Really appreciate you all attending, and I appreciate all the great questions. Hope we were able to answer them. And yeah, if you have any more questions, the URL for our project is openspaceauthority.org/CVCamp, and we'd love to hear from you. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for Terry for hosting. Take care.